Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Forgotten Generation podcast with your host, Troy. With me in today's episode, it's the guest who was on the Power of Youth Day special. Go and check it out if you haven't already. They are also an Our ambassador from Scotland and a content curator, a young scout, and a member of the digital committee at Scottish Women in Sport. Gemma, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, so I'm Gemma. I'm 17 years old and I'm from Scotland. As Troy had mentioned, I'm an IWIL ambassador and I do a bit of work with other organisations surrounding topics such as sport, mental health, and youth voice and youth involvement in decision making.
It's so lovely to have you back on the podcast.
It's lovely to be back. Honestly, it feels like I've missed being able to do podcasting stuff. I'm ready to get back into the social action stuff.
It's great. And speaking of social action, so what is your social action journey?
So my social action journey started a few years ago now with a local group called the North Lanarkshire Youth Climate Ambassadors. And with that group, I was involved in quite a few different things, including we've done online Zoom calls weekly, doing things like quizzes, watching documentaries on climate change. It was really fun. But we also done a few events like litter picks. We had an annual EcoFest event where the aim was to educate young people in the local community about climate change through fun, interactive activities, such as testing out different vegan foods, doing some ranking games for different kinds of for plastic waste to see how much plastic waste they think was produced, been able to upcycle stuff. So we done tote bags out of t-shirts. It was really fun, and basically just trying to put forward the message of sustainability and recycling and climate change in a way that was fun and interactive. And so after the Climate Ambassadors, I've been involved in a bunch of other different groups with organisations such as Young Scot and YouthLink. For example, with Young Scot, I'm a member of the Youth VIP panel, the Young Scot App Working Group, and the Scotland Young People's Forest panel. And also, I'm an IWIL ambassador involved with UK Youth. So I'm an IWIL ambassador for Scotland, and I'm now part of the IWIL mobilisation group. So it's been really, yeah, you're also a member of the mobilisation group, so it's been great to work with you as well. And it's just been really great I've had quite a varied social action journey so far. And honestly, I've really enjoyed it. I've learned so much about so many different topics, had so many amazing opportunities. And it's really just been my social action journey has been one of the most rewarding parts of my life. And it's something that will always be a part of me and something that I'll always be so grateful for. So yeah, that's a bit about my journey so far.
Wow, I love your journey. It's so empowering and in a way you've done so many things and you're still doing amazing things and it shows the growth you've come across in your journeys. So empowering. And so you said that you're like a young Scot. And is it part of the member of a digital and committee that I said of the Scottish Women in Sport?
Yeah, so I have been involved with Scottish Women in Sport is more of a recent one I've been involved in. I'm really passionate about sports and sports media, and especially about getting women and young girls involved in sport and making sure that in that kind of world that they have a voice and that they have a place and they feel welcome and they feel supported. Because I think a lot of the time, like especially young women going into sports, they feel like it's a bit of a man's world. They don't really know where they stand, and they find a lot of difficulties being accepted and being taken seriously, whether it be on the field or on the pitch playing, or whether it be in the world of commentary. A lot of the times it can feel really unwelcoming and really hostile, and as if they just don't have a place. So with Scottish Women in Sport, I've recently just became a member of the digital committee. I'm hopefully going to be helping out with writing some blogs for their website and a little bit of content creation with that. So that's been really good. And I think as well in the sports kind of world, I've become a content creator for a local autograss track, Central Scotland Autograss. So hopefully I'm going to be going there to get some trackside experience, doing a bit of some interviews, doing some stuff for their social media, a few posters. I love using Canva, so I'm trying to justify the purchase of Canva Pro. So just getting involved in that and being able to justify getting Canva Pro for myself. So it's been really good. It's kind of, I'd done tennis when I was younger for a few years, but I've never really been overly, like in the world of sports, I've not really been kind of there. I've not really been present in that. So it's kind of more recently I've kind of rediscovered, a passion for kind of sports and sports media. So getting involved in that's really been like it's been all like, it's all very fun and new and exciting right now. So really just trying to jump in and get involved in as many projects as I can. So yeah, it's been a totally new side of like sort of social action. It's been really good and a refreshing change from stuff. So yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. And I definitely will signpost you to a Sports for All podcast on Boomer Change Media Network, where
Oh,
it's about sports, and our fabulous host Eden hosted that. So I'll definitely signpost you there so you can talk more about the sports and about your journey in that. So what inspired you to have a voice and be who you are today in your journey?
I think for me in my journey when I was starting out, I'm trying to think of how many years it is, but then whenever I say how many years it is, I feel really old. So I've just tried to block that side out. I'm saying I'm 17 and I'm old, but I feel like a dinosaur now. Like whenever I say I've been involved for like a few years, but my kind of what inspired me was when I was like, watching the news, right? Like the news it seems like it's always filled with just terrible stories of things happening across the globe, and especially when it was kind of the lockdown era, it was sort of climate change was all you seen. It was always about the ice caps are melting. You saw about wildfires, you saw about deforestation, about species dying out. And I think that was one thing I've always been really passionate about climate change. Like when I was younger, I don't know if this is just like a uniquely Scottish thing, but we done these wee like 100-word stories things. You could get them published in like a wee book. I've still got mine. It's my proudest achievement so far. And I've done one on endangered animals, and it was because we'd learned about kind of recycling and stuff like that in primary school, and just we'd done a whole topic on about endangered species. So I wrote a poem on that, and so that's just a bit of context. I've always kind of been aware of climate change, but it really, when you watch the news, it just puts it forward in a way that's so jarring, and it really gets like, it really shocks you when you see it, because it's like if you're not seeing it actively in your community. I've never watched the news more than I did in lockdown, and I really saw what was happening. And I was like, no, this isn't. I want to make a change on this. And so one of my friends was involved in a local climate ambassadors group, and she had recommended that I get involved and come along to a meeting and see what I thought. So I did. It was the scariest experience of my life waiting in that Zoom waiting room. But when I went in, I felt so welcome, and I felt so like encouraged. And within a few weeks, I was able to confidently kind of participate in stuff. And I think really, it's obviously like fear is a very big thing. Like I think there's so many things to be kind of fearful about in today's like climate. And I think climate change was always something that really scared me, because it was like, no, this is a global issue. This is something that's going to affect us all. It's going to affect me in the future. It's going to be my generation that feels the effects of this. So I want to make a change. So that was kind of what inspired me to get started, was just seeing all that and thinking, well, no, actually, I want to put a stop to this, and I want to do my part and do what I can as a person, as an individual, but also within a little group, to see what we can do to sort of raise the profile of this, and also try and encourage change to be made at this grassroots local level.
Yeah, and that is so like so important, finding like inspiration and finding your voice. And I think it's so interesting how you said about the news, how you looked at the news and you watched the news and it really made you passionate about those issues that you're passionate about. And I think it does. I think the news really tells it. And loads of things happen in the news and we want to make change. And I think it's so inspirational that you want to have that voice in your journey.
Yeah, definitely. I think the news is a big thing that kind of like, I think it's where it's hard to ignore when you see things right in front of you. I think a lot of the times when you hear about stuff, like when you hear people saying, "Oh, climate changes, this is happening somewhere," it's like, okay, you're taking it in. But see, when you see it, like you see images of the ice caps melting and of wildfires across, you're like, "Oh my goodness, this is like," it makes it more real, and it's not like, it's a weird kind of space to be in. It's not that it doesn't feel real when you're being told about it, but when you can actually see that, and I think that's something like being able to see that on screen and right in front of me, it was so jarring. And I think that was when I was like, no, this is my time to make a change.
Absolutely. I think that is so important. And so what has been the like number one barrier you felt as a young person, a young change maker, making change in your community, but also wider?
I think for me, this is more of like a personal one for me. I used to be, I've said this on pretty much every podcast or any like kind of event I've spoken at, is I used to be a very shy, introverted person before joining the climate ambassadors, before anything, genuinely the mention of speaking out in front of someone or being able, or like having to raise my hand in class to answer a question was terrifying. I wouldn't do it, and I would do anything to avoid having to speak out publicly. So for the climate ambassadors, when I joined, it was that first meeting, I was absolutely terrified, and I did feel really welcome, but was not ready to participate at that point. I was like, no, too scared, not going to say anything, not going to rock the boat. I'm just going to sit here, camera off, mic off, and just sit and take it all in. And I think that was kind of like, I think getting exposed to like all of the stuff I did with the climate ambassadors. So but after a few weeks, I was able to come in and participate and speak in an event or speak in the meetings, but I was still a bit nervous. And then when I kind of got thrown into the deep end a wee bit in the best way possible, because I was meant to be doing a presentation, or I got the opportunity to do a presentation at a senior pupil sustainability conference at Motherwell Civic, and it ended up in solo. And I went in and was literally walking up to that like 3-stage bit, shaking, managed to go up and deliver the presentation, came back down, was still shaking, and was like, thought I had done absolutely horrendously. And I was like, oh no, this is awful. And I was still very much in that way. I've been very like almost like in my shell. Like I'm not going to speak. I'm just going to sit here. And I was really tempted to just kind of retreat into myself again. But when I went out into the main like kind of foyer area, one of the teachers from one of the schools that was there, came up and said, Gemma, that was really inspiring that you've went up and done that as a young person. I think a lot of people wouldn't have the confidence to do it. You done so well. And it was just, I think it was very nice to hear, considering I thought I'd bombed the thing. I thought I'd went in and just totally messed up. I was like, they're never going to ask me to do anything again. But also it kind of gave me that confidence that once I had done that, and once I realised that I'd not completely messed up, that I actually, looking back on it, it was quite fun. It was quite cool to be up there and being able to talk about like the work that I've been doing with the climate ambassadors, and to talk about something that I'm passionate about to a large group of people. And I think that was the biggest barrier for me, was just overcoming that fear of public speaking and overcoming that kind of nervousness and finding my confidence within myself. And then once I did, it's the best thing that has happened. I've not only been able to do more presentations like that and to be able to speak to people in different contexts and been able to do presentations, events and everything, but also just in my personal life. I'm finally able to raise my hand in class to ask for a pencil without having to like nervously like tap the pupil's spine, like, you got a pencil? Like, I can raise my hand in class to answer a question. And actually, like, a few months following the presentation, I actually had to do my spoken language presentation in English, which feels like a bit of a, it's not in the same level, but like it was something that I was so worried about for ages. But actually, from doing that presentation, I went up there and I done the spoken language presentation. It was actually on ABBA Voyage, so done my ABBA Voyage spoken language presentation, and I was fine. Like, I was able to stand up there, deliver it with, I'd like to say, confidence. I'm not 100% sure if it was confidence yet. I think it was just, I was able to do it, and I was able to feel comfortable doing it and to answer questions that I was asked. So I think that was the biggest barrier, but it also led to the greatest change within me, definitely.
And that is so inspirational. And I think you've really grown. I think you've really like and developed as a young person, a young change maker. But and you are going to have those times where you feel like you can't do this, or you feel like you can't fit in, and there's going to be lots of barriers that you and go through in this journey of making a difference. But I think you've very much shown that, and I think it's so empowering. And what you just said, it really is.
Thank you so much. Honestly, it's one of the things that I do like bring up like whenever I speak about stuff, because I think a lot of the times it's like you are making change in your community with your social action, but also you can see such profound benefits to yourself. And I think that's something I'll always be like hugely vocal about, is like, it sounds really cheesy to say, and I say it and I keep saying it sounds cheesy when I say it, but social action did change my life, and it changed it in so many ways. But it's also just, as a person, I feel like I've grown so much and I've learned so much about myself. And I think it's something that you can definitely find being able to find that confidence within myself was so major for me. And it's something that I'd like genuinely, my mum brings it up a lot. She's like, oh, you're just like, you're so much more confident, you're so much more outgoing. And I think you don't realise it at the time, but slowly you do start to come out your shell the more you do stuff like presentations and everything. So definitely, I'm very grateful for that opportunity, even though I was terrified, absolutely terrified that I was going to like say something wrong or I was going to end up, I was really scared that my throat was going to get dry and that I was going to start coughing and not be able to stop coughing when I was up there. I didn't, thankfully, but that was like a genuine fear that I was going to sneeze. Like the things you think about when you're going to do a presentation, but like, but that was, it was major for me, and it's something that I'll always be so grateful for.
Indeed, I think it's so remarkable on the journey that you're at the moment. I think, as you are gonna learn like different things in this journey of feeling like that, I'm at self-doubt, but you've really come out of your shell, and I could really see it. I could really tell how passionate you are and how much you're very much wanting to drive change, which is so wonderful. And so, what are the three issues you think young people are facing right now? And what would you want decision makers and professionals who are working with those young people to do better as opposed to our voices?
I think it's honestly it's such like looking at like the issues kind of young people face. It was difficult to kind of pick out three, but I've picked out the three kind of main ones that I think that I've personally experienced. So I think the first one is academic pressure. I think this is especially relevant right now, given that exams day for me is 2 weeks away, 2 weeks today. And I think England's at the end of the month. And I think just so many students are just anxiously awaiting the results that really are, they're determining their future, they're determining the path that they're going to go down. And I think students are already subjected to so much pressure throughout the school year, and not to mention they've got responsibilities at home, they could be caring for siblings, they could have a part time job. And then to ask someone at the age of 16, 17, or even younger what they want to do with the rest of their life is unbelievable, and it's so much pressure. And I think there is so many support resources out there for sure. But they often come after results come out when the damage has kind of already been done. So I think that schools, educators, decision makers need to be doing more to alleviate this stress more consistently. So, for example, offering support at various points throughout the year, checking in with students one to one on a regular basis, or pairing students with a teacher mentor. I know that was kind of done in my school. It was trialled at my school before I had left in sixth year. And just not even formally, just having an open and honest conversation with students about how they're feeling, how they're coping with stress, if there's any issues, or if they could use any extra assistance, and making those adjustments accordingly. Because I think that young people often they don't feel like they've got anyone to turn to, that they think they just need to bottle up their stress and they just don't tell anyone about it because they don't want to be seen as been struggling, or they don't want to be seen as they can't handle like the pressure or they can't handle the stress. But when they feel like they've got someone to talk to, not just when things are bad, but when things are good, it means that they're going to know that they've got that space and they're okay to share their feelings and they're okay to ask for help and to feel that they're being listened to and they have someone to trust if things don't go according to plan. And I think even just having someone there to talk to when things, not just when they're bad, but when they're good, like being able to go to your favorite teacher and say, I passed this class test that I was really worried about in this class that I was struggling in, and just being able to have someone there to be able to just be like a sounding board and to just check in with them regularly. There's so much that can be done, but I think you can't overestimate how powerful, or you can't really like put into words how powerful it is to just have someone there to listen to you and to be like, just chat. Like I think it's so important to just have someone there. I think that someone that's there for you, someone who's unbiased and who someone's going to listen to you and be there for you is so important. And I think the next one would probably be mental health. This is kind of related, but mental health is something that's always been identified as an issue that needs urgent attention whenever I've like, attended events or spoken to young people in my community. And we're all like familiar with the situation. There's ridiculously long waiting list. Young people aren't able to access support and they don't really know where to turn. And it's a system which is going to need like a huge overhaul and is going to need complete change to make it accessible, equitable for all young people. But that will take time. And I think in the interim, it's just so important for decision makers to make it known where young people can turn to for support, helplines, online resources, etc. And there is no quick fix. And to be honest, I don't know what the long term fix is either. but everyone is aware kind of that things do need to change, and they need to change soon for the good of young people. And I think the last one is this. This is like kind of related that climate change is a big theme in all my social action, so I had to bring it up at some point. And I think this is an issue which affects everyone and is so important, but often feels like it's swept under the rug or it's pushed aside to deal with other matters. But the issue is with that is that it's never brought back into the spotlight or really given the attention that it should be. And I think it's such a huge issue and it'll take a lot to tackle on like a governmental level. But I'm a big believer in grassroots change. So for me, I think a lot of changes can happen from the ground up. I'm a big believer in teaching younger kids about climate change in a way that they'll understand. So, for example, recycling, teaching them what bins to use for what items. And I know some adults in my life that still don't know that. So, so I think that just like being able to teach them basic things like that, like the importance of picking up their litter, doing litter picks at the school. And I think that's so important. And as well, it's like a family unit. Like families should maybe make a conscious effort to reduce their plastic waste and their consumption, not throwing away excess amounts of food, etc. And these are such simple changes and they sound so basic, but honestly, they can have such a huge impact and are so important in the longer term fight against climate change while we're already facing these other issues. And I think like this is just an overarching theme for all of them is just listening to young people. Young people can add such value to conversations, organisations, and decision making, but often feels like their voices aren't heard or cared about. And decisions that affect young people often aren't made with young people being consulted, which sounds like it sounds so weird to say, but often they are. And I think the decisions that are being made now are the decisions which are going to affect our lives. So it's only fair that we've got to say. And there are some like recent examples of just some of the incredible work that young people have done when they're involved in decision making processes and they're pushing for change and they can have such an impact. So I'd really love for organisations and decision makers to ensure that young people are given that platform to have their voices heard, to make their opinions known, and to have their say on the issues that matter to them and that will affect them.
Absolutely love exactly what you said. And both the issues are so important and so vital. And I really hope as Jamaicans can do better in supporting those and really take action on what young people are saying and really listen to our voice and really understand how we're feeling as young people because we go through this. And I think it's important that they understand where we're coming from, but also like we understand where they're coming from as well, so we can work together in a co-produced way in tackling those issues.
Absolutely.
And so, what would be your one and advice to a young person wanting to make change and a difference, but don't know how to?
I think I had to think about this and I was like, I was trying to summarize things in I'm trying to make some dead like big powerful statement. But honestly, I think it's you never know until you try would be mine. I think it's such a simple one and it's been used for like it's one that's said so often, but it rings very true for my journey. And I think it will resonate with a lot of young people. It's just you never know you young people I think are so passionate and I think they're so passionate about stuff. Like if you've got a passion, there's an opportunity for you. And you never know the change that you can make. You never know the impact that you can have. You never know how much you can change and how much you can grow and develop unless you try. I think there's definitely with social action, I think like when you're first getting involved in opportunity, there's definitely a lot of fear. I think there's the fear of going into the unknown, going into this group, and there's also the imposter syndrome of kind of, do I deserve to be in these conversations? Do I have the knowledge required to be in these conversations? But it's important to remember, just at the end of the day, it's not about the experience, and it's about what you as a young person can bring to the table. It's your passion, it's your voice, and you might not know everything, but nobody does. And it's all about translating your passion, giving it your all, and that in itself will make a difference. And you just don't know the impact that you can have until you try. And don't let yourself be put off by the fear, because absolutely, like, if I had let the fear put me off, I would never have been the person I am now. I would probably, I wouldn't be on the podcast. I would not be doing social action. I would not be doing presentations. I wouldn't be doing anything. I'd probably still be sitting in class. Well, not now because I finished school, but I'd still be sitting in class just refusing to talk to anyone. And I think I've said it about a million times. It's the most impactful thing I've ever done. Social action is the best decision I've made for myself, and I would recommend absolutely anyone to get involved.
Absolutely, and it's just like such a peaceful advice, and I really hope that young people listen to it can really resonate on what you said there. And so, what would be of the Forgotten Generation podcast quote to sum up your journey?
I think I've just never know until you try. That'll be the one. I said that about 4 times in there, but I'll just use that one again.
Yeah, I think it's such a great quote. I love that. And I think it does sum up your journey. I think it really does because you've really come out of your shell and you really are making change in so many different ways and so many places. So yeah, you really are inspiration. So thank you so much for coming on today's episode, Gemma.
Thank you so much for having me. Honestly, it's been so good to talk to you and just get back on. I know after the Power of Youth Day special, I've been like that. I want to come back on. I want to come back and chat.
Yeah, it's so good to have you today and to really come back and really showcase your voice and to like and showcase your journey. And I really hope that the young people listening to today's episodes can really take away on what you said to really make change and to really make a difference and to really and be who they are. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Please support the podcast by subscribing and rating the podcast. I'd love to hear what you like and what could be better for future episodes. If you want to find me, you can find me on Instagram and I will .troy and also on X I will _Troy. Tune in to next week's episode.